Hi everyone, thanks for listening to this presentation on the new nutrition facts label and some guidance for Vermont WIC staff. So as many of you probably know, the FDA has recently released just a reform on the current nutrition facts label. The current one is about 20 years old, so it really needed some new changes. So the bulk of these changes are being made around just making the label more aligned with the new dietary guidelines and also just making it easier for consumers to read and understand. So let's start with just a sort of an overview of what changes are being made. So they've set a compliance deadline for July 26, 2018 for the bulk of food manufacturers. For those smaller manufacturers that are doing less than $10 million in annual revenue, they have an additional year to comply. So they don't need to be using the new nutrition label until July 26, 2019. So what exactly is changing? Quite a lot, actually. So here we can see sort of an example of the new label. First and foremost, is going to be a larger text size for both the calories and the serving sizes on the label, just to make it more prominent for consumers. Serving sizes themselves are going to be changing for some products based on what consumers are actually eating rather than just sort of what's suggested. And the calories from fat is going to be disappearing from the label. Some recent research has shown that the source of fat is more important than the actual amount that's being consumed. So we just sort of pulled that out so it's not as distracting to customers. They're more focused on whether it's saturated or trans, whatever kind of fat they're consuming. The daily value percentages are changing for some of the foods. We'll take a look at this in some later slides. And then also total sugars. So underneath total carbohydrate, we used to just see dietary fiber and sugar. So now sugars is being changed to total sugars, and beneath total sugars we have sort of another subheading, added sugars. So that's brand new to the label. There's also going to be some changes to the vitamins and minerals that are going to be required on the label. So before, it was not required that vitamin D and potassium were on the label. They were just optional nutrients. But now, vitamin D and potassium are required. Calcium and iron are going to continue to be required, and vitamins A and C will no longer be required, but may be put on optionally. So the reasoning behind this is just that some of the most recent NHANES data has showed us that vitamin D and potassium are just some nutrients of concern for the American population. Not everyone is getting or meeting their daily requirements. So we just sort of want to highlight those a little bit more on the nutrition label. Whereas vitamins A and C, those that are no longer required, those were more an issue in the early 1990s, but we're not seeing them being as much of an issue or concern for deficiency today. So we sort of have taken those off to sort of make way for the more concerning nutrients, vitamin D and potassium. And also, in addition to these changes with the mandatory nutrients, they're actually going to have to declare the amounts. So next to vitamin D and calcium, you see 2 micrograms, 260 milligrams, etc. So rather than just putting that daily value percentage in there, they actually have to put the amount that's in the food. And then lastly, an updated footnote, which we'll talk about in a few slides. So starting with the new serving sizes, by law, serving sizes must be based on how much consumers are actually eating or drinking in one sitting. This is referred to as the reference amount customarily consumed, which we'll call the RACC from now on. So here you can see just sort of an example, food serving sizes getting a reality check. So what is currently sort of the suggested serving size versus the new serving size, what people are actually eating. So what sort of constitutes a change? If serving sizes have increased or decreased by consumption by 25% or more, and this information is based on the NHANES 2003 to 2008 surveys, we'll be changing the serving size. So some serving sizes will be smaller, some serving sizes will be larger, sort of depending on how consumption has looked over that time frame. So, and serving sizes are also based on common household measures. So say someone is, on average, the ice cream consumption is, 1 cup, just slightly over 1 cup. The serving size will be 1 cup. It'll be something that you can measure from your home. So for multi-serving packages, something that's between 2 and 3 servings, here you can see this on the nutrition infographic in the bottom corner, we'll be having just sort of a dual column. So there'll be a listing for per serving and per container for nutrition information. And items previously considered to be between 1 to 2 servings will now be labeled as 1 serving. So you can sort of see an example of this with the Coke bottles at the bottom of the first infographic, where it says 12 ounces or 20 ounces. Both of those are going to be considered 1 serving per bottle because that's what's customarily consumed. So there are going to be some changes in the percent daily values for some of these nutrients. So these changes are going to be based on just some updated research from the Institute of Medicine as well as the new dietary guidelines. So you can see here that the percent daily value for total fat is increasing by 5%, while the percent daily value of total carbohydrates is decreasing by 5%. Percent daily value for fiber is increasing. Added sugars are being added, so that's just a new daily value. And also the percent daily value is being reduced for sodium, and for vitamin D, calcium, and potassium, it's increasing. So also going back to vitamin D, we can see there that the unit is changing from international units to micrograms, so it's just a little bit more of a household understandable unit. It's also able to be converted to milligrams, and is more cohesive with the rest of the units. So added sugars. Added sugars are defined by the FDA as any sugar that's added during the processing of a food, as well as anything that's packed as sugar. So something that's sold as sugar or sold as syrup qualifies as well. So this includes any sugar, syrups, honey, sugar from highly concentrated fruit or vegetable juice, and some sugars found in other juices and fruit spreads. So this highly concentrated fruit or vegetable juice and the sugar in juice is going to be something that's more concentrated than what's sold in the store. So this is not your fruit juice concentrate that's frozen, that's WIC approved. It's something that is higher concentration, something that is more sweet, something that is not sold as is. So the FDA recommends that Americans consume no more than 10% of their daily calories from added sugar. This is just due to some recent research that's shown if you're consuming more than 10% of your calories from added sugar, it's likely going to be very difficult for you to meet your nutrient needs without consuming excess calories and putting yourself at risk for becoming overweight and developing chronic diseases. So the current average consumption of added sugar, of course, we could probably all assume is more than 10%. It's actually about 13% of our daily calories, which equates to 260 calories per day for a 2,000 calorie diet. So the top sources of added sugars in the United States, according to the NHANES 2005-2006 survey, are soda, energy and sports drinks, those sugar-sweetened beverages, grain-based desserts, fruit drinks, dairy desserts, and candy. So here's some label examples. They're divided into age categories just to sort of increase the accuracy of that RACC we were talking about before. I'm sure, we can all assume that an infant is not consuming the same amount as an adult, so this, makes good sense. So here, looking at the infant to 12-month label first, we sort of see that there's no percent daily value for saturated fat, cholesterol, sodium, fiber, total sugars, or added sugars, and there's also no footnote here. And then for the 1 to 3 years, the percent daily value is based on about the 1,000 calorie a day diet. And for the standard label, those over 3 years of age is based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. So each of these labels is going to be found on, foods that are respectable or intended specifically for that age group. So of course the infant to 12 months, you're going to find that on baby food. 1 to 3 years, you're going to find that, on progressive food for toddlers, and the standard label for adults. So also for both the infant and child labels, total sugars, added sugars, vitamin D, and potassium have been added to just to make them more cohesive with the general population or the standard label. So next, the nutrition facts footnote. So the footnote has been changed in just an effort to make it more clear for consumers. So previously, the footnote read, percent daily values are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, and your daily values may be higher or lower depending on your calorie needs. Now, for the general population, it's going to read, percent daily value tells you how much a nutrient in a serving contributes to your daily needs based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. And of course, it's just going to be changed to 1,000 calorie per day diet if for foods intended for toddlers 1 to 3 years of age. So basically, just the biggest change is that it's converting to just a little bit more of a simple language and telling you exactly, percent daily value tells you how much a nutrient in a serving contributes to your daily needs. So it's just sort of, it's a very clear statement in comparison to what it was before, where it simply told you that, the percent may be different depending on your diet. All right, so then for children who are younger, for infants 7 to 12 months of age, the FDA has actually approved a statement for optional use by manufacturers. As long as it's truthful and applicable to the food, it may not be included as part of the nutrition facts label, but may be listed elsewhere on the food label. So this statement is, total fat and cholesterol should not be limited in diets of children less than 2 years unless directed by a physician. And again, that's just optional to be listed by manufacturers. So some RACC changes that are affecting serving sizes for WIC foods. So they're affecting serving sizes, but they're not affecting the eligibility because our WIC eligibility is based on per gram or ounce. It's based on a measurement. It's not based on per serving. So this is just so you know that servings are changing. It's not changing the eligibility of foods. So really we're just seeing some changes in ready-to-eat cereals. The serving sizes are increasing. Same goes for canned fish. And they're both increasing and decreasing for, those ingredient-style fruits like avocados, cranberries, lemons, limes. And then we're seeing some new establishment of RACC values for soy beverages, dried vegetables, seaweed, and sprouts. So how are we going to take action? So it's really just important that we're using the time that we have in clinic to educate our participants on these new changes. They're probably going to have questions, and we want to be prepared to tell them exactly what's changing and why these changes are being made. For those individuals who don't already read food labels, this could be a nice gateway to sort of encourage them to start doing so, because they really are easier to read than ever. And so we're actually going to be developing a nutrition education activity that'll be available, shortly. Maybe it'll already be available by the time you're viewing this presentation. And during this education, it's going to be, completely appropriate to talk to your participants about reducing added sugar in their diet, and also the importance of the particular nutrients that are going to be, listed on the nutrient label. So the FDA actually has released an updated list of nutrients of concern. So these are potassium, fiber, calcium, vitamin D, iron, and folate. So these are what we really want to be talking about with our participants. And of course, iron, especially for children, pregnant women, and women of childbearing age. So of course, all of our participant categories. And then folate, especially for pregnant women and women of childbearing age. So this is really important. And also, when you are talking to people, telling them why these things are important and just sort of giving them the context rather than just saying, it's really important that you get folate. Say, it's really important to get folate for, healthy fetal development, and sort of expanding on that and letting them know, of course, why it's healthy for their baby. All right, so that's all. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, there's some additional resources listed here. The FDA has released, sort of a full change report there. And then also, if you do want to see what, some other examples of nutrition facts labels, they have quite a few there. Some are bilingual, etc. So all sorts of nutrition label examples there. All right, thank you so much, and have a great day.